netbook. If you were old enough to know the difference between one of these and a regular laptop in the mid-2000s, then it might bring up some interesting memories. Lately it brought up some nostalgic feelings in me, and I went on a binger buying several models for fairly cheap on auction. The term netbook is starting to be used again, with a new wave of powerful mini laptops. So let's take a quick look at what netbooks are, and specifically the ones I remember from when I was just graduating high school. So generally, netbook is the term used for small, low-performance, and inexpensive laptops. More recently, many Android tablets or Chromebooks might fit in this description. When netbook first started showing up, they had smaller screens, reduced weight, reduced power consumption, reduced prices, and also lacked disk drives. To make up for this, many netbooks had SD card readers, which were unusual for laptops at the time. Netbooks ranged from screen sized 5 inches to 12 inches, and weighed around 2 to 3 pounds. By the end of the 2000s, netbooks were significantly cheaper than laptops and were offered as a bonus by wireless carriers with a new contract purchase. So what happened to netbooks? By the early 2010s, consumers, and even some publications, couldn't really see the difference in a netbook and a notebook, which led to confusion. To keep a bigger difference and to keep markets from bleeding over, restrictions were put on netbooks to keep them lower powered, making notebooks for more standard use. At the same time, Apple released the iPad as well as the MacBook Air. The iPad offered more portable form factor by getting rid of the keyboard and still had more power and functionality than the netbook. The MacBook Air was a lighter weight while still offering more modern specs, although at a hefty price tag. Because of the popularity of these products, many manufacturers went away from netbooks and created what they would call ultrabooks, which were more powerful and bigger. As mentioned before, Chromebooks started being made and essentially replaced netbooks by having similar sized and lower spec laptops. Of note, HP started offering the Stream line of computers in 2014, which could also be considered a netbook because of its specs and size. As of late, a trend of making smaller computers has started to re-emerge through crowdfunding with the GPD win. The company Zambox created this along with a commercial line of netbooks called One Netbooks. They are using the term netbooks and their computers meet the other descriptions except that these netbooks can come upgraded enough to play modern PC games. These aren't necessarily under-spec'd computers. They do come with a keyboard built in, and if it's meant for gaming, it has Switch-like controllers attached. These undersized computers can be dated back to the Toshiba Libretto. These were called sub-notebooks. These computers would also be much smaller in size and weight, although still heavier than netbooks of the mid-2000s, and would also be without internal media drives. They would also be suggested to run Windows 95. The term netbook was first used with the Asus EEE PC, designed with a 7-inch display and Linux on an SSD, meant for emerging markets. There's one more thing to mention with these small computers of the mid to late 2000s. There are some small computers you may find that are running Windows CE or Windows Pocket. PDAs of the time often ran Windows Pocket, but there are some mini PCs or Pocket PCs that run Windows CE, which is a custom version of Windows that run applications specifically meant for a CE. They usually aren't referred to as netbooks, and I don't think of them as netbooks. PDAs are more like early tablets, and many PCs are so underpowered and don't run full OSs that I think they are in their own category. My personal story with netbooks is my mom coming home from Best Buy with a netbook. She liked the small size and the small price. Once I set it up to go, though, she noticed it didn't have a CD drive, and because of that she basically instantly didn't want to use it. It ran Windows XP, and I had fun using it because of its portability. Since then, I've mostly gone with more power and more size on my laptops for maximum functionality, but lately I've been into older computers and getting the most out of limited specs. This, as well as some nostalgia, led me to picking up several different models of netbooks to have fun with. Netbooks came out when Windows Vista was the new operating system, but wasn't really powerful enough to run it, so they often had Windows XP installed. Windows 7, though, dialed back the system requirements for running the operating system, and because of that, many netbooks started coming with Windows 7 instead. Netbooks started out with having Intel Atom N270 processors running at 1.6 GHz, 1 GB of RAM, and 512 kilobytes of L2 cache. Most of the older netbooks you will find, though, will have an Atom N450 CPU running at 166 GHz. Around when Windows 7 started being included in netbooks, were upgraded to using Atom N550 processors and had 2 cores, 2 GB of RAM, and 1024 kilobytes of L2 cache. As I was picking up some netbooks, I got some newer and older netbooks. With the newer ones, I was able to install Windows 7 and fully update them with drivers and Windows updates. More modern applications such as web browsers still support Windows 7, so it wasn't hard to get it running what I wanted it to. With the older computers, I would install Windows XP Service Pack 3. I believe the update server for XP is offline, so to update further I would need to pick out individual updates from the Microsoft catalog, which is a bit of a hassle. Most modern applications don't support XP, so finding a few web browsers that still do was nice. Let's take a look at some of the netbooks that I do have, starting with the Acer Aspire 1 model 532H-2326. This has Windows 7 naturally, as well as the 10.1 inch screen, built-in Wi-Fi, 250 gigabyte hard drive, and 1 gig of memory with a N450 processor. Next is the Acer Aspire 1 ZG5, and this one, as demonstrated, has a 7-inch screen and is smaller. Now this computer has an Atom 255 processor, as well as 1 gig of RAM and native Windows XP. Just wanted to say quickly, sorry about the quality here. I didn't realize that the camera didn't focus on the computer screen, but you can kind of see how it's working in the loading times that we're getting through the internet here. This is an Samsung N145 Plus model netbook. The Samsungs seem to be built sturdier and have some of the newer hardware in it that works very well. This one also has Windows 7 naturally. And I wanted to show off to you guys the nicest and probably newest of the netbooks that I got. This is a Gateway LT280 or 2802U. Also comes with Windows 7 naturally, but also has Intel Atom N455 processor, as well as a graphics media accelerator, and 1 gig of DDR3 memory, making it a little faster, and runs 802.11b, and N for a little faster wireless speeds. And finally, here is a little Sylvania Pocket PC, as I was telling you about before. Wouldn't consider this a netbook, as it does not run a regular Windows operating system, but instead runs Windows Embedded CE. Means there's a ROM chip on here, not even a hard drive that is running the operating system. But it's a tiny 7-inch screen, and for the Pocket PCs and the type of operating system that it runs, it's actually pretty advanced. There's some things you can do with this, and as you can see, we have Internet Explorer, which probably doesn't work now because it's too old. We have Media Player for if I had some media on here, Real Player if you remember that old media player, and of course some games and such. And as I finish out the video here, we can watch me playing some Mastermind. So how is the experience? Let's start with newer netbooks. What I love about them is their small size and often stylish design. I like having the limitations and seeing what I can do within the constraints. That being said, except for my Gateway, the netbooks were limited to wireless G, which is kind of slow internet speeds. I didn't really want to connect via Ethernet all the time. I was on the internet. The Gateway also has wireless in and gets decent wireless speeds. RAM wasn't much of a problem, but I could plug in a flash drive for some extra semi-fast memory. I do enjoy the small screen, keypad, touchpad, even if I fat finger things on it. Where the problem came was the processor. The Intel Atom processors, even the N550, wasn't fast enough to handle even the operating system very well. Granted, I do still remember the days of clicking on an icon or opening a web page and having to wait possibly minutes for it to load. Looking at the performance, it was often close to maxed out whenever I was doing anything. Even browsing the internet was tough. This made me notice something. The internet has evolved majorly since the 2000s. Most of what we do on the internet now is streaming. Streaming relies at least a bit on the computer to be able to get to the video data fast enough and processes it to stream fast enough. In the case of the netbooks, while I might be able to download the data fast enough, it didn't have much of a GPU, and the processor was already bogged down, which made it near impossible to stream Twitch or YouTube. YouTube did exist in the time that these were coming out and was viewable, but it's evolved to a site that assumes that people are using more modern computers. I started thinking maybe I needed a lighter operating system, but preferably one that was still modern. I installed Lubuntu and Puppy Linux to a couple of the netbooks to try it out. While it functions faster, it still has slowdowns in trying to process video. That isn't to say that these netbooks are useless in modern times. They are still good for portable word processing, watching a downloaded video, playing some older games, or a number of other fun things you could do. I plan to keep playing around with them from time to time and seeing how best I can enjoy these in modern times. I would love to have an older sub-notebook, and did almost have one, and would love the new 1GX1 Pro for small screen portable gaming, although it's super expensive. I feel like there may start being more and more choices for modern netbooks before too long. There seems to be at least a small demand for it, and the only real reason it was killed off was because Apple was outselling netbooks with its new computer types. Manufacturers didn't try to keep their line of netbooks around or try upgrading them, but instead opted out to try to copy Apple instead. Tablets were new and Apple was a popular brand. iOS is a fine operating system, but it's not a full-fledged operating system, it's a mobile operating system. I think netbooks still have their purpose in market, but manufacturers were looking to follow the trend, and possibly due to low profit, because the netbook's low price point, they were willing to jump off that fast. Well, I want to thank you all for watching my kind of history of and review of netbooks in modern times. I hope that you've enjoyed the video, found it interesting, and are possibly considering maybe trying to find your own little netbook buddy to bring around with you. If you enjoyed the video, please consider leaving a like. It helps me out a lot, helps me to grow, and stay tuned for other videos that I have going soon. Thank you.